Good morning, Center for Effective Living Community. It's Valerie Ling. This is actually a take two of my The Fear Is video. I have no idea what happened to the last one, so if this comes up twice in your feed, I do apologize, and I have no idea whether this version will be exactly the same as the last version, so you get to have a double input of the Thing About Fear Is video. So I mentioned, or I alluded yesterday on my post, that I had a day of combating fears myself yesterday. I found myself the whole day just combating certain thoughts that I was having about things that I wanted to do, steps that I wanted to take, and just being held back by fear. And I thought, this is a pretty common experience. For most of us, all of us, we will feel fear. It's not an uncommon emotion to have. So the first thing to say is, well, what is fear? Fear is essentially, and thank you for the like, fear is essentially an emotion that basically gives us a signal that we are under some kind of threat. It could be a threat to our survival, our actual physical survival. It could be a threat to our safety. It could be a threat to ourselves. The thing about psychological fear is, more often than not, that fear is a fear that something that we're predicting is going to happen, something bad is going to happen to us, but we may not actually know whether that outcome will actually happen. The second thing I want to say about fear is that there are certain situations that we will find ourselves in where fear is actually really important to attend to and to be cautious about. And that is in the context of any kind of traumatic event. If a significant traumatic event has occurred to you that is bringing up feelings of fear, it's important to attend to that and be careful and cautious about it, and of course to seek help and to talk to someone about it. Another kind of fear would be a phobic fear. And that is the kind of fear, overwhelming emotion that you will have about a situation where you're worried bad things are going to happen to you. Things like the fear of flying, the fear of heights, the fear of needles. Now that's another kind of fear where it's really important to take it slow, take it easy, and to actually talk to someone about it. Today, though, this morning, I just want to talk about common psychological reactions to fear, where it's pretty much about something to do with a fear of failure, a fear of rejection. It could even be a fear of success. What if I can't handle it? What if I'm not made for it? It might be a fear of not being good enough, or it might be a fear of actually being alone. So the thing about fear is, it's an uncomfortable emotion, and it makes us want to avoid taking steps to confront that fear. And avoidance is part of the mechanism that will keep us entangled and trapped in fear. It's almost like a picture of, if fear keeps us in prison, we step into that prison and hand over the keys to an emotion that might actually dissipate if we confront it. That might actually dissipate if we try something different to what fear is telling us to do. So, what can we actually do about fear? Well, I like to see it as fear as an emotion that encourages us to either seek avoidance or to get data, get feedback. If we choose to take a small step in the direction of doing the thing that is opposite to what fear wants us to do, we actually get information back, data. We actually create options and we create choice for ourselves. And when there are options and when there is choice, we have less fear. So the first thing to do is to acknowledge, what is the thing that is making you afraid? What is the thing? What are you most afraid of? What are you predicting is going to actually happen? When we name it and when we call it and when we actually acknowledge that, we actually take one small step to freeing ourselves from being trapped. The second thing to do is a process that psychologists call graded exposure. We brainstorm without necessarily needing to commit at this point in time the various small steps that you could take to confront and face that fear. Now that's different from what we would call flooding, which is throwing someone in the deep end. For example, if someone had a fear of spiders, we might throw them into a tank full of spiders. That's awful. I can't watch those shows where they make, I think it was the celebrities, wasn't it, that had to actually do all these kinds of things like put their head through a cage and get confronted by spiders and scorpions. That's really difficult for me to watch. Now that's flooding. We don't want to do that. There's no good reason to actually do that. Little steps, however, small steps, dipping your toe into the swimming pool, staying with that little toe in the swimming pool long enough to acclimatize yourself to the temperature, get lots of good feedback to see that you're actually not sinking, that you're actually coping. Those are good little steps to come up with. So the first thing is you would acknowledge it. Second thing is you create a whole bunch of options for little steps that you can take. Then the third thing you can do is you then actually prepare. You have a thought, you identify one little small step that you can take and figure out what do you need to take that step. Now you don't have to do this by yourself. You might identify people that you trust that could do that step with you. Or maybe the first thing to do for preparing for that is to actually get information. Do some reading, get some resources, find out more about the situation that you're looking to confront. Once you start to prepare, you're actually empowering yourself. You're actually saying to fear, hang on, hand me back that key. I'm not staying in here. I'm actually taking some steps. I'm preparing to actually walk out here. But the first thing I need to do is to unlock the door so that it's open. And then after that, you problem solve. You actually make a plan. You further empower yourself to say that here's the step I'm going to take, here's what I'm going to need, and here's the plan for how it's actually going to look in terms of the first thing I'm going to do, the second thing, the third thing. Okay, so with that, the thing about fear is when you're not avoiding, when you're actually confronting it, and importantly, when you're actually starting to desensitize yourself to the uncomfortable feelings that fear brings, you start to find a sense of empowerment and possibility. So the thing about fear is it can be confronted. It can be, you can take the keys back. It's not realistic to say that you will never feel fear. And it's not realistic to say that the things that cause you to feel uncomfortable will 100% never make you feel uncomfortable. But the freedom that comes from saying, I can do this, I can take those steps, and I can take back the key is one step towards a sense of freedom. Hi, Simon. Thanks for watching my video. All right, I'm going to leave you with that now. I'm actually confronting some fears today. I've scheduled it. It starts at 10 o'clock. I'm going to take those first steps. Have a good day.